Hello and welcome back to Marketing Mondays with Marilyn. Today we're going to talk about these little things right here, the business card. Once the most popular way of sharing your contact information with others, a lot of people wonder, is anyone still using these? Do we still need them for our business? Is there anything we can do to make them stand out a little more so they don't just get tossed in the trash? And what can we do to incorporate some more modern touches into our cards? We're going to talk about all of that in this episode. But first, let's address the first issue of whether or not people still use business cards. The answer is that yes, they do. They are still important for networking and building relationships. And while people may not pass them out as much as they used to, they are still a great way to leave a professional first impression that doesn't translate quite the same way in a digital information exchange. The discussion about business cards bears a striking similarity to one that was very popular about 15 to 20 years ago regarding ebooks versus traditional paper books. When ebooks first started to take the market by storm, a lot of people said that they would completely replace paper books, that print was dead, that the printed book as we know it was going to go the way of the woolly mammoth or the vinyl record. The irony in that last one, huh? Vinyl ended up making a comeback starting in the late 2010s, and sales of it have been up year after year ever since. And books never went away. The ebook has not and will likely never completely replace a physical book. And for the last couple of years, the two mediums have just peacefully coexisted. People who prefer to read a physical book will tell you that they do so because holding an iPad doesn't have quite the same feeling as holding a book. Printed books are just more engaging. You don't have to worry about them being charged either. And nobody goes to the bookstore to wander among the stacks to look for something new and amazing to download. In case you can't tell, I'm in the solid camp of physical books. We have literally hundreds of them in our home, and they will always be my preference, even though I do sometimes read ebooks too. Hell, I even wrote a couple. I'm certainly not the only one who feels this way. During the global event that shall not be named in 2020, people began reading actual paper books again to pass the time, and they discovered, or rather rediscovered, just how enjoyable it really was. Fast forward to now, and it's gained even more traction with things like hashtag book talk trending heavily on TikTok, over 185 billion views and counting, and hashtag bookstagram on Instagram, effectively making reading cool again for people of all ages. Speaking of ages, by the way, something that I found really interesting about these trends is who is embracing them the most. It's young people between the ages of 18 to 25, people who were born into an era where the internet already existed and digital media was already widely popular. That is also the demographic that's buying vinyl records the most, something that was definitely not popular when these young people were born. Nonetheless, according to a study done in 2023, this age group makes up between 52 to 55% of that market in sales for both of those extinct mediums. Sarcasm on the word extinct for that one, my friends. Anyway, so what does all of this tell us about the subject of this video, the printed business card? It tells us one big picture item. Print is not dead. I should go ahead and tell you that I have been a graphic designer for 26 years, and I have been hearing that print is dead for at least 20 of those. And of course, things have changed, sure. The industry has certainly evolved, but can anyone name an industry that has not in the last 20 to 30 years? Now, with that said, there are some things regarding business cards that have changed, especially in the last 10 plus years or so, where full color printing has become way less expensive. There are more paper options. People are coming up with cooler looking functional business cards and so on. Let's talk about some of those. One, these days a lot of people are doing two-sided business cards versus the plain white front with maybe one color. I have been advocating for those for years, telling my clients that they're already paying for both sides of the paper, so you might as well use it. Now, in the past, it was a lot more expensive to do printing that was what we call 4/4 or full color on both sides. But that is definitely no longer the case. Most of the time, It's not more than a few bucks, if even that, to do this, even on a large run. Using both sides definitely has a lot of benefits. One being that it looks a lot more contemporary and polished and professional, even if all you do is put your logo on the back side of the card, making your identity seen on both of those sides, no matter which one someone picks up. But most people do more than that. You can easily use one side of the card to put a brief marketing message or a rundown of your services, or your social media information, or a QR code linking to your website. It shouldn't be packed with information, but just enough where it looks nice and professional, and it serves as a little advertisement for you. This is something that digital business cards don't do as well as print ones. They are generally just an exchange of information. When you go to look at that later, unless it's very obvious in the name of the company, are you going to remember what that person does or even who they are? Not to mention that a printed card does not have a personal touch to it. When somebody hands you one, you're more likely to remember more about that scenario than just a simple, let me send you my contact card here on the iPhone. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but don't people just throw those away? Sure, that's been happening since business cards have existed. It's not new. But people are less likely to do that if that card has some kind of connection attached to it, such as when someone gives you a card and they're in a business or do a service that you know you're going to need either now or later. You're more likely to hang on to that. And another way that people are more likely to keep that card is if it's functional. I'll give you some examples. One very popular and cost-effective way to do this is by making it bigger, the size of a bookmark specifically. Obviously, if you're a bookseller, as the people in these examples are, this is a perfect business card. But I will tell you that I have worked with several clients who are not booksellers, including one who is an orthodontist and one who is a civil engineer, that has done business cards shaped like bookmarks, and they have been very pleased with them. The people who they passed them to loved the idea, and they got points for being creative in how they share their contact information. Those cards, aka bookmarks, provide value to the person it's given to. Like we talked about later, reading is cool is cool again. So if your business card is suddenly functional because it's also a good size to stick in your latest #BookTalk read, well, maybe you know someone who owns a coffee shop or similar establishment where you can put those cards, aka your bookmarks, for people to take, and you can guarantee that they will, even if they aren't readers, because something that hasn't changed is that people love free stuff. Another route is to do folded cards. They are still business card size when closed, but twice that size when opened. And some of my clients have used those for giving out things like recipes or instructions for filling out forms, or lots of other things. One client who was a politician used them to show off their qualifications when he was running for a judgeship. He won that election, by the way. Probably not because of the cards, but I like to think that they helped. So, what are some other functional business cards? Some people will go the environmental route and get ones that contain seeds which can be planted. Some have done little flat flashlights or sponges. A while ago, I saw a really cool plastic business card for a bicycle shop that had a lug nut opening on it, which is super clever. And a couple of years ago, I did a design for a high-end hair salon that was a little business card-shaped comb. Obviously, getting creative requires a larger budget than just printing a box of cards, but I'm suggesting these as alternatives to just a regular paper card, if funding permits. As for whether or not people keep functional business cards, well, here's one in letter opener format that was given to me by a printer in the mid-1990s. I don't even think that these folks are around anymore, but this letter opener certainly still gets used to open mail all the time. So, now that we've covered traditional and functional business cards, let's talk about digital ones. The parallels to paper here versus pixels is very similar to the conversation about ebooks versus print books that we had earlier in this video. And on the same note, I think that those can both coexist just fine in a professional environment, because each has their own benefits and scenarios that it's best suited for. Obviously, one drawback to printed cards is that you cannot make changes to those in real time. They have to be reprinted. Whereas with digital cards, you can make a change in minutes. And they are sometimes cheaper in the short term because you only really need to make one, which you can send to anyone anywhere. You don't have to be in front of them or have a little plastic stand somewhere where people can grab them. All of these are fair points. So for situations where you are not having FaceTime with another human, then these work fine, even if they are a little impersonal. Again, we believe that both mediums are valid and relevant tools, so whenever possible, have both of them. There are still a lot of people who want that physical thing in their hand to show that you're the real deal, and having a printed business card somehow gives that gravitas, if you will. With digital business cards, you have a plethora of options. You can have one that's just a plain, no-frills thing that you can make yourself, like a .vcf file, which stands for virtual contact file. And you can text that to someone, boom, they have your info. But again, those are not really memorable. And if you aren't meeting with that person face-to-face, we believe it puts you at a disadvantage because of this forgettability factor. Digital business cards come with a forgettability factor as standard equipment, to be honest. That's why, if you choose to use them, it is always recommended that you do so in conjunction with print cards. And on those print cards, you can include a QR code that you can have someone scan that links to that contact info. That's what we have found works the best, and it covers you on all bases. The card, the digital one and the print one, should include your logo, or for the digital ones, a photo seems to be best, all of your contact information and your social media accounts, which can be accessed from one spot so that the person you're giving that info to can just have it all. There is one thing you should know about digital business cards, though, that's important as far as cost. There are a growing number of services out there which offer these now, so if you're considering them, please be sure to note the cost over time, or how flexible they really are. Some require everyone to have a specific app to view them. That's not really that useful. Some require a monthly service fee in order to keep using them. Some only come in one variety with no ability to customize with your colors or branding. If you aren't careful, some of those digital business cards will end up costing you just as much or more than it would to print them. So if you're looking to add this, we suggest that you do your homework and look at all of the costs involved to decide if they're really right for you. When we create them for customers, we make them in such a way that it is fully customizable and utilizes a QR code to take the person you're sharing it with to a website or social account where they can connect with you. This is in the form of an image which you can add to your phone and pull up for people to scan, or you can email it to them as well. There's no subscription cost and only a one-time fee to create it. And it's a great way to still share your info when you don't have cards on you, or you run out, or any other number of scenarios. So now that we have talked about why business cards are still relevant in today's business world, what are some options for your business cards, including ones that are functional, and why digital business cards are a nice addition to your branding, but not the only method you should be using to network and share your information. To piggyback on all of this, we have a short white paper about business cards to share with you called The Power of First Impressions. It's available now for free on our website. I'll link that in the video's description. And one more thing. We often run a special on business cards that is very popular. It's been a while since we've done it, though, so it feels like it's time again. But this time, we're going to sweeten that offer even more. With any order for design and printing of 1,000 business cards or more, we will throw in a digital business card for you absolutely free. All you have to do to order is email us at the address also in the video description and put BC Video Special to receive that offer in the subject of the email. So that's all we have for you this week. Don't forget to tune in next Monday for a new episode. See you then.